Peter Martin Audio Division presents Cinematic Audio.
Evette, a P.J. Mundy story.
Chapter 1. In the cold light of morning, the bustling metropolis of London's skyline paints a mesmerizing picture, illuminated by the city lights. Amidst the hustle and bustle, people scurry about, engrossed in their own affairs, with little time for idle chatter or concern for others. It is a snapshot of the human condition, encapsulated in the mundane yet pivotal actions of everyday existence. Outside the boundaries of the city's concrete jungle, within the realm of residential tranquility, in a residential area, it's a picture of domestic pride. Fresh coats of paint and well-maintained facades reflect their owners' care and attention. Front gardens burst with colour, meticulously tended and inviting. Untouched by the chaotic rhythm of city life, but even more so than usual because of the time of year, as they are all laced meticulously with Christmas decorations that make your heart warm with festive cheer. Yet, amidst this tranquility, a sense of unease lingers in the air. Behind this facade of normalcy, behind closed doors, hidden from prying eyes, resides a woman whose existence is hidden in the shadows. This house stands in stark contrast, an eerie testament to neglect and isolation amidst a row of otherwise well-kept residences. The once vibrant paint on the exterior has faded and chipped away, revealing patches of weathered wood and brick beneath. Moss and grime cling to the bricks, giving the house a forlorn and uninviting appearance. The front garden, unlike the neatly trimmed lawns and blossoming flower beds of her neighbours, is an overgrown jungle of weeds and tangled bushes. A rusting, creaking gate hangs loosely from one hinge, the remnants of a once welcoming entrance now serving as a barrier to the outside world. Evette, a figure lost in the labyrinth of her own mind, finds solace in the confines of her self-imposed exile. A British gas van pulls up directly outside the front gate. A man emerges from it with the resolute demeanour of someone accustomed to mundane yet essential tasks. Clad in the uniform of his trade, he strides purposefully towards the nondescript door bearing the number 13, his steps measured and confident, as this is no different to the countless visits he has made. Reaching the door, he knocks firmly and rings the bell, the sounds piercing the stillness of the morning. There is no immediate response. Undeterred, he repeats the action, his professional patience unbroken. As he stands there, a flicker of movement catches his eye through the window, stirring a spark of curiosity within him. He peers closer, trying to discern the shape and intention of the shadow that lurks just beyond the glass. Peering inside, he attempts to engage with Evette, only to be met with resistance. From behind the glass, Evette's voice carries a faint yet unmistakable tone of defiance as she questions the purpose of his visit. "What's your business here?" she demands, her tone edged with suspicion. "No worries, it's British Gas. I've come to check the meter," the gas man replies, his voice steady but tinged with a hint of impatience, trying to convey the importance of his visit. But his words are met with further resistance. "This door is staying as it is, now, on your bike." The gas man, attempting to diffuse the tension, resorts to humour. "All right there, missy, hold your horses. We did inform you that we'd be here either today or tomorrow." He chuckles, but his jest falls flat in the face of Evette's stoic silence. An awkward beat hangs in the air, the tension between them palpable. "Do I have to remind you that you're running the risk of overspending, or your gas even turning off?" he warns, his tone more insistent. "The heating is perfectly fine," Evette snaps back, her voice growing increasingly hostile. "Now clear off before I call the police." "The police?" the gas man echoes, a hint of disbelief colouring his words. "Leave!" Evette screams at the top of her voice, filled with a mix of anger and desperation. The gas man steps back, bemused and somewhat shaken. The once innocuous number 13 now seems a daunting, impenetrable fortress. He retreats to his van, casting one last puzzled glance at the window, where Evette's silhouette retreats from behind the opaque glass back into mystery. Chapter 2. The atmosphere inside Evette's house is stifling, oppressive. The home, cloaked in darkness as the windows are heavily curtained and frosted over with grime. The air is thick with a musty odour, a blend of dampness and the faint, lingering scent of stale tobacco. The hallway is dimly lit, the light from a solitary bulb flickering intermittently, casting long shadows that dance across the peeling wallpaper. Dust and cobwebs adorn every surface, untouched by the passage of time, creating an atmosphere of abandonment. Evette's kitchen, once the heart of any home, is now a place of disarray. The countertops are buried under a layer of unwashed dishes and decaying food scraps. An old, unreliable fridge sits in the corner, its contents a dubious collection of mouldy vegetables and half-empty cans. The sink is piled high with dirty plates and cutlery, the tap dripping incessantly into the murky water below. Upstairs, the bedroom offers no respite from the dereliction. Bin bags filled with clothes are strewn across the floor, creating an obstacle course of neglect. The living room is cluttered with piles of miscellaneous items, from old newspapers and magazines to broken furniture and discarded clothing. The sofa, sagging under the weight of years of use and neglect, is buried beneath a mountain of empty pizza boxes and snack wrappers. In the midst of this chaos, Evette herself seems like a ghost roaming the halls of an old haunted asylum. She takes a seat at the dining room table, facing the window. The television behind her flickers, casting an eerie glow that highlights the scarf and gloves she wears. Each exhale releases a plume of breath steam, despite the thermostat being on full blast. On the table, a coffee mug with Brexit, a Royal Independence plastered across it, sits atop a Union Jack tablecloth. A notification from her iPad breaks the silence. Email. We are sorry your delivery has failed. Please call our helpline. The table shakes as Evette's obese body mounts everything around her as she frantically gets up, turning on a lamp. The light reveals her face. Black British in her mid-40s, but etched with lines of worry and weariness, giving her the appearance of someone of her mother's generation. She begins dialing, her fingers moving with the familiarity of repetition. An automated voice says, "Hi, welcome to our helpline. Press 1 for..." Evette presses the appropriate numbers, her impatience brewing. She stretches the phone cord to its limit as she peers through the curtains, the street outside deserted and indifferent to her plight. A customer service agent greets her cheerfully. Evette responds not in kind. Snarling, "I've gotten a ridiculous email saying you cancelled the delivery for my Christmas shopping." The agent, slightly uneasy but remains cheerfully assertive. "I am very sorry to hear this, but yes, we have a system log backup and therefore had to cancel some deliveries." Evette sharply retorts, "I couldn't give a monkey's rear end about your backlog." The voice on the other end of the line maintains a veneer of politeness, tinged with a hint of confusion. Evette grips the phone tighter. Her frustration is boiling over. "You seem to be struggling to understand the importance of the situation. I need a particular beer and cupcakes I ordered for today." "I'm sorry to hear that. Oh yes, you did mention the beer and cupcakes. Right. It's a simple fix. The store is still open until 5:30 p.m. today. Though it will be busy, you have an hour. Your name and address, please." Chuffed with herself, assuming the problem is solved. Directly outside, a blue car pulls up blasting music, the door swings open, and the music blares even louder. A pedestrian approaches the car, signaling for the driver to turn the volume down. A foreign accent shouts out from the driver's seat window, "Hi, my friend! No English!" The pedestrian shrugs and walks away, prompting the driver to laugh dismissively. No, I ordered it to my home. I'm not a fan of change. Evette's voice wavering with desperation, her anger now fueled by the sound of random instruments clanging together, invading her sanctuary. The initial irritation with the customer service agent has now been coupled with the unwelcome intrusion from outside. From behind her tattered curtains, though her vision is inhibited, Evette peers out with a mixture of disdain and reluctant curiosity. The immigrant, standing in the dim lighting of the early morning street, she seems to possess a beauty that inevitably grates against Evette's hardened sensibilities. Though it's too far to make out her face clearly, what is blatant is her youth, and her long, lustrous strawberry blonde hair, cascading down her athletic body in soft waves, catching the light in a way that makes it appear almost golden. Her eyes, even from a distance, seem to sparkle with an unsettling mix of innocence and resilience, framed by thick lashes that flutter with every blink. She moves with a graceful confidence, her posture upright, her movements fluid and purposeful. The immigrant's attire, simple yet stylish, making her seem almost seraphim through the lens of Evette's bitterness. As the immigrant waves in Evette's direction, her hand slender and graceful, it feels like a mocking gesture stirs a painful mix of envy, anger, and an aching sense of loss with the simple joy of human connection. "What kind of crap is that?" Evette mutters, pacing back and forth, scoffing. "These Poles just waltz into our country and do what they please. These people are bang out of order." The customer service representative's voice sharpens. I feel like you're beginning to be unkind now. These people? I don't think my suggestion warranted all this abuse. I'm not even Polish." Evette stammers. "What? No, not." She is abruptly interrupted. "I come to work and I try to be cheerful," the voice continues, tinged with self-assurance, "even though I don't have anyone to celebrate with at this time of year." "Look, I don't have time for your problems," Evette interjects, her tone softening despite her frustration. "You seem like a nice girl, but my family are here hungry." Looking around the empty cave-like home, "Can we get a move on?" But her plea dissolves into the noise of her own agitation. The conversation gradually dissolves into results she had feared the most. The voice on the phone offers no solace, no reprieve from the crushing weight of disappointment. With each word uttered, Evette's grip on reality slipping further as she grapples with the cruel twist of fate that threatens to unravel her carefully constructed world. "Miss Golding, nowhere in the country is taking last-minute same-day grocery home delivery on Christmas Eve," says the customer service agent, attempting to remain calm and professional. "It's Mrs. Golding!" she screams, her voice cracking with desperation. Evette's fingers nervously twist her wedding band, a habit born of anxiety and frustration. Her breath quickens, and her face flushes with mounting anger. 14 years I've been doing home delivery. 14 years I've ordered the same thing at this time of year. 14 years. You hear me? 14 years. You think you can cancel our Christmas celebrations? All my family are here. Go to hell." In a fit of rage, she hurls the phone against the wall, the shattering of glass echoing through the empty corridors of her home. As the shards of her shattered dreams scatter across the floor, she finds herself enveloped in a suffocating haze of fury. Evette reaches for her last cigarette, a futile attempt to find solace in the embrace of nicotine. Her fingers tremble as she tears open a packet of snacks, the rhythmic sound of her chewing echoes in the confines of her frantic but stifled thoughts. But even amidst the chaos of her unraveling world, it just got worse. The sound of laughter and cheerful greetings exchanged between neighbors with the new immigrant next door pulls her back to the present moment. Chapter 3. Evette peers through the curtains. She catches a glimpse of the immigrant next door, as far as she is concerned, is an unwelcome intruder. With a sense of indignation, Evette recoils from the window, her mind awash with bitter resentment. Who does this immigrant think she is? Outside, a brief interlude unfolds between the neighbors. The male neighbor leans into the blue car, his gesture a subtle attempt to temper the intrusive German folk music. Meanwhile, the female neighbor emerges from the immigrant's house, exchanging a tender kiss with her partner before engaging in a whispered conversation. Their attention shifts to the few remaining boxes, a silent acknowledgement passing between them as they prepare to depart. The male neighbor, his gaze fixed on the immigrant, offers a gesture of assistance before redirecting his attention to his own home across the street. As the female neighbor expresses admiration for the immigrant's resilience and positivity, as she paces back and forth bringing the immigrant's property from the car to her new home, confusion ensues as the immigrant grapples with the nuances of language and culture. Evette strains to hear the conversation outside. "Do you enjoy the outdoors and meeting people?" The neighbor's voice carries from next door, light and curious. "Yes, this. It was hard, my accident. I was very sad." "You know? Alone," the immigrant replies, her voice tinged with the sorrow of past loneliness. "Well, don't knock at number 13, the neighbor's husband chimes in, a mocking edge to his voice. "Evette will suck your joy away like opening the door on an airplane mid-flight." His wife laughs, exiting their house and playfully swatting his arm. "I don't think she has ever left that house since we moved in over a decade ago," she says, shaking her head. "Never even seen her open the door," he adds with a rueful chuckle. "What it means to suck joy?" the immigrant asks, puzzled. "Happiness is like money, it travels, right?" the neighbor woman attempts to explain, using her hands to communicate. "You've come and given it to us, and we will give it to others. Though, on the other side of that coin is misery. The key is to avoid it." "Like smallpox in the 16th century, her husband quips, and the couple laughs again, though their mirth is tinged with nervousness. The immigrant steps out of her house, a box of plates in her hands. As if on cue, the box slips from her grasp and crashes to the ground, the sound of breaking porcelain shattering the fragile camaraderie of the moment. They stand, stunned, staring at the mess, knowing the inevitable cleanup that lies ahead. Unbeknownst to them, Evette lurks behind her curtains, a silent observer to the exchange unfolding outside her window. With a sense of indignation, incensed by their casual dismissal, rips open the curtain and slaps a UKIP sticker onto the window, glaring out at them with defiant intensity. A not-so-silent protest against the perceived threat of outsiders into her secluded world. The neighbors, caught off guard, watch her with anxious expressions, disappointed and unimpressed by Evette's attempt to intimidate. Evette withdraws from the window. In a moment of desperation, she turns to the refrigerator, a repository of decay and neglect. With a resigned sigh, she retrieves a can of beer, the last vestige of solace in a world devoid of joy. As she settles onto the sofa, her gaze falls upon her iPad, a portal out of this harsh world into a realm of comfort. The time is 17:02, anxiety builds. Evette's trembling fingers trace the contours of her wedding band as she immerses herself in the nostalgia of old photographs. Each image is like a last heartbeat, a last breath, a symbol of a bygone era of happiness and togetherness, now relegated to the confines of memory. In the dim light of the room, she scrolls through images of a younger, slimmer, more vibrant version of herself. She lingers on a celebratory snapshot, a relic of her and her husband's first Christmas together. They are even younger here, barely more than kids, sitting on a Christmas-themed floor mat. The room around them is sparsely decorated, but their faces are alight with joy. They smile broadly at the camera, surrounded by an array of homemade ginger nut cupcakes and bottles of Korean beer. The caption reads, "The first night in our first apartment, the 25th of December, 1992, 27 years ago." He appears beside her in many of these photos, his features marred by the scars of a horrific fire accident. Yet, in those captured moments, they are unmistakably young and in love. She lingers on this photograph, her finger hovering over the screen. An emotional beat passes as she stares at their blissful expressions, the innocence of that moment almost unbearable to look at now. She forces herself to continue scrolling, like peeling an onion. Each swipe does away with her tough, ghoul-like persona, revealing more of the victim of circumstance, hidden in these snapshots of their shared Christmases. The festive scenes are strikingly similar: ginger nut cupcakes, Korean beer, and the unmistakable warmth of their companionship, a deeply meaningful tradition that they held strong for many years. Then, abruptly, the joyous images stop. The last one is dated 14 years ago. Her heart tightens as she moves to the next picture, the screen filling with the stark black and white of a news article. There is a grainy photograph of her and her husband, the headline glaring, "Eastern European immigrant kills British man in altercation." The iPad slips out of her grasp as she drops her face into her hands, the weight of the past pressing down on her. The room around her seems to close in, filled with the echoes of a life shattered by violence and loss that shattered the idyllic facade of their lives. Evette, her hands falling limply into her lap as she grapples with the weight of sorrow and regret. In the silence of her cluttered home, she finds herself engulfed in a sea of emotions, her mind oscillating between past and present, hope and despair. Chapter 4. Evette glances out of the grimy window at the blue car parked outside, its presence a constant irritant. "Eastern European immigrant kills British man in altercation," burns in her mind. The immigrant next door, so vibrant and alive, is a painful contrast to her own existence, and Evette's bitterness intensifies. It's not just about the tradition or the noise. It's about a life disrupted, dreams shattered, and the relentless march of time that has left her behind. But she knows that the fear of leaving the house again after her husband's murder burns deep into her soul. She checks the time again, each tick of the clock echoing in the silence. Her mind swirls with anxiety and desperation. The grocery store is 25 minutes away, but closes in 30 minutes. She worries that it's virtually impossible, with the time left, to save the sacred tradition. But she has to at least try. Fueled by a newfound resolve, Evette rises from her seat, determination etched upon her weary face. With faltering steps, she navigates her home, each new movement more difficult than the previous one. But beneath the layers of anger and resentment lies a flicker of hope, a desperate yearning for connection and normalcy. The act of getting up, of moving towards the door, is her way of fighting against the inertia that has gripped her life for so long. It's a small, defiant step towards reclaiming her agency, a refusal to let the past and her current circumstances dictate her every action. As she moves, the weight of her past and the spectre of her husband's death bear down on her, but so does the faint possibility of change. It's this complex interplay of emotions, grief, anger, hope, and a stubborn will to persevere, that propels her forward, out of the room and into the uncertain light of the world beyond her door. Chapter 5. Evette fumbles slightly as she navigates the room, the path obstructed by bin bags filled with clothes. She shoves the bags aside, one by one, until she reaches the wardrobe. The door creaks open, revealing garments heavy with dust, relics of a life once more vibrant. She brushes off a long winter coat, the fabric releasing a cloud of particles into the air. With a resigned sigh, she changes her decrepit slippers for more durable ones, a small yet significant preparation for the outside world. Hope and anxiety war within her as she prepares to leave the sanctuary of her bedroom. Her legs nearly buckle under her weight, and she leans against the wall, struggling to catch her breath. Each inhale is a battle, but she pushes through. At the front door, Evette peers through the peephole, making sure no one, especially the immigrant, is lingering outside. She doesn't trust the silence. Her concentration is skewed by the sound of her own breathing and condensation building up on the door, making her feel the sensation of suffocation. She holds her breath for a moment and peeps again, this time more assured. She catches a glimpse of herself in the glass. The reflection greets her with the current reality. The dusty, stained jacket is embarrassingly too tight, her stomach bursting through the fabric at the bottom, almost spilling out, her unkempt hair exposed where her wig sits askew. The sight is enough to bring tears to her eyes, and they flow freely down her cheeks. She leans on the door, shaking her head in silent lament. For a moment, she allows herself the luxury of sorrow, feeling the weight of how far she has let herself go, but only for a moment. She wipes the tears away and takes a deep breath, grounding herself in the present. She opens the first lock, her hand hesitating over the second. With a surge of resolve, she unlocks it, quickly followed by the other two. The latch is the last barrier. She unhooks it with a swift motion and opens the door. The sudden brightness of daylight almost blinds her, a stark contrast to the dimness of her home. As her eyes adjust to her left, the immigrant exits her home simultaneously. Both women are momentarily struck dumb by the sight of each other. The immigrant's third-degree burns are a shocking sight, her face, neck, and arms marred by the aftermath of a tragic event. The severity of her scars is hard to look at, and yet they hold a strange power. This is the first time Evette sees the immigrant up close, her disfigurement a physical manifestation of her own painful journey. Evette feels a surge of self-consciousness, but also a strange sense of solidarity. The immigrant's visible scars make Evette's own struggles seem less insurmountable. In that shared moment of vulnerability, Evette finds the confidence to step fully into the light, her own imperfections laid bare. The door is open now, not just to the outside world, but to the possibility of connection and understanding, however tentative and fragile it may be. The immigrant's face, despite its scars, lights up with a deformed smile. Still, it carries a sunshine warming Evette's soul to the core. She approaches Evette with a gentle confidence, fingers dancing over her phone. With a soft click, she hands the device to Evette. The phone speaks in a calm, mechanical voice. "Hi, I just broke some plates and need to go to the supermarket before it closes. Do you want to come with me?" As the sound fades, the immigrant reveals a fragment of a broken plate, giggling lightly. The simplicity of the gesture and the sound of her laughter cut through the tension, offering a moment of unexpected levity. Evette is overwhelmed by the mix of emotions, remorse, gratitude, and a burgeoning sense of connection. Her nod is more than an agreement. It's an acknowledgement of shared humanity. For a brief moment, the divide between them narrows, and Evette finds herself stepping into a groundbreaking alliance, one forged in the small, everyday trials of life. Together, they stand on the threshold of Evette's home, poised to step out into the world together against all odds, only the mission ahead of them. Chapter 6. As they drive down a busy street, Evette sits in the passenger seat, her eyes wide with wonder. It's as if she's seeing the world for the first time, every detail stark and vivid. She glares at everyone and everything. The bustling life outside the car windows is foreign in comparison to the one or two people she would see strolling past her kitchen window. When they pull into the supermarket car park, Evette's expression softens, a smile spreading from ear to ear. It's a hesitant, almost a fragile joy, one that seems unfamiliar to her. She fumbles for words, struggling to express the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. The immigrant, the obsessive, compulsive clean freak that she is, can't help but take out sanitation wet wipes and attempt to clean the stains on Evette's jacket. She shrugs her off. Her eyes are drawn to the immigrant's severely burned hand, reminding her of when her husband used to reassure her that everything will be okay in testing times. The immigrant notices Evette's gaze and the unspoken questions in her eyes. With a graceful, reassuring gesture, she reaches out and holds Evette's hand. The touch is gentle, yet firm, a silent promise of support and understanding. In that moment, Evette feels an out-of-body connection, a shared humanity that transcends words. For the first time in a long while, she feels a flicker of hope for the future.
Thank you for listening to a Peter Martin Audio Division production, written and produced by PJ Mundy.